A lot of developers are from some reason afraid to write tests. And almost every job description for a developer comes with something like this. So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you that there is nothing to be afraid of. We are going to set up our Next.js app for testing. We are going to create a simple test for rendering a component, and then we are going to create more complex testing for this page where we are displaying our users. We are going to set up everything through the Next.js documentation. So this is the type of testing that Vercel is recommending us to do. We are going to use Jest and React testing library, so it's some kind of hybrid approach which is really awesome for testing our components. And if you see here, we need to install all the dependencies, so we're installing Jest environment, JS DOM, the React testing library dependencies, so that's the first thing we're going to do. I'm going to install all these dependencies using pnpm on our Orcish Fullstack Admin, and after that, we have the create jest latest command, which is just going to generate a basic jest configuration file for us. So I'm going to copy also the pnpm command, and we see here that all of our dependencies are successfully installed, and I'm running the pnpm create jest latest. And now we're going to get different prompts on what kind of configuration we want for our testing. So first thing that we get is, would you like to use Jest when running test script in package.json? We are going to type yes because we want that one. We are definitely going to use typescript, and then we are choosing the test environment. I'm going to choose Node, and do we want Jest to add coverage reports? Yes, we can do that. And which provider should be used to instrument code for coverage? V8. And are we going to automatically clear mock calls instances? And yes, also for that one. So that one is done. Let's see what we got here now. So here in our project, we have now jest.config.ts. And here we have a bunch of commented things that we can bring out and out-comment it in order to use it. But Next.js made everything much simpler. So here we are going to just copy their jest.config file that should be used in Next.js, and there they're using the next/jest, which is doing all the configuration work for us in Next.js. So here you can see what is it doing under the hood. It's setting up transform using the Next.js compiler. It's auto-mocking style sheets. It's loading the environment variables and node modules and a lot of stuff, so we don't have to worry about the configuration. So I'm going into the jest.config.ts and I'm pasting the file from here from their documentation. Let's continue with the implementation. So next thing, we can handle absolute imports. It's optional, so we are going to keep it simple. We are not going to do this now. Also, we can extend Jest with custom matchers, and we are skipping that part too. And now we have here adding test script to our package.json. Our create command already added this test to Jest, but it's missing the test watch. So I'm going to our package.json file, and here, so you can see we have already our test here, and we are adding test watch. This watch command is just keeping our tests working constantly while we work on our project, so we can use that also. And now we can actually try to run pnpm test. So I'm going to remove this one, and now we are going to get our first blocker, and that's the TS node, and from some reason this one is not installed with all the dependencies, so we are going to add it manually. So I'm adding it as a dev dependency, TS node, and now it should be installed quickly. Here it is, and we can try and run pnpm test again. And now our tests are going to work, but we don't have any, so it's complaining that we don't have any tests, and now we can write our first test. So our setup is completed. Now we can go to the documentation, and here we can create our first test. So we're just going to steal this whole page.test.jsx, and we are going to write it for our products page. Because our products, we don't have anything here, it's just a simple heading, and this is just the basic test if our page is being rendered and if it has this heading on that page. So here in the products folder, I'm creating a new file and I'm calling it page.test.tsx. And you can see already here that our icon is different, and I'm copy pasting that test that I took from the documentation. And here I'm just going to call this page from the root. So here it is, and I'm going to call it, for example, products. So here also products, and that's cool. And now we have our second problem, and that's that we cannot find name describe, it, expect, and everything. So that's because we are missing the types jest dependency, and we're going to add that one also. So we are doing the pm again for a dev dependency, and we are adding types jest. So now when that one is installed, we are going to wait for it to be installed. There it is. So here now we should remove all these errors. It just needs probably a little bit more time. I'm going to restart it, reloading the window, and now when it comes back, we don't have any errors. And now this test is valid and we can actually run it through our terminal. Let's just check before running it, what are we actually testing here? So first we are rendering the page products. That's this page right here. And then we are checking if we have a heading with level 1, which means if we have age 1, and here we have age 2. So this test should fail, and we are expecting it to be in this document. So now here, if I run pm test, we are going to run that test, and let's see what are we going to get. So our test is failing, and let's see why. It should render a heading, and we have here it should be level 1 and we have h2. So let's delete this text here, and we are going to say level 2 and test again. So we are testing now if we have our h2, and our test is passing. So this is the simplest and most straightforward test that we can write for any component. So we are just checking if it's rendering and if it has a heading. And if you check here our products page, so that's it. That's everything that we need to expect, and that's totally fine to write a test for this page here. Now, next thing that we need to test is the users page. And this one is more complex, and we have to cover a lot more than on products page. On this page, we have the actual users data that is coming from some API, and we are displaying it in our table. So we have pagination also. Here, if we type like this, users page equals to 1 and total items 10. If we put total items to 2, then we have only 2 and our pagination is changing. So we need to test all of these things, and those tests need to pass each time. So we are going to mock this data from here and test our component if it's displaying the right things. So let's start first with this whole users page. So I'm going to close everything except this test, and I'm going to users page. So here we have this entire page that is using trpc, it's using the use search params from Next navigation. So those are all the things that we are going to mock in order for our tests to pass. And later we have the users table, and inside we are displaying all that data. So we are going to create tests both for this users page and for the users table component. First, we are going to create this users page test. So I'm creating a new file, and that one is also going to be page.test.tsx, and I'm going to copy this whole test from here. And we are going to call it users. So here we are going to check if everything is rendering, and if we have, I don't know, no, we don't have any heading, so we are going to remove this part. We just need to check if this page is rendering on the right way. So now you probably think this one is easy, but let's run this test and check if it's easy or not. I'm just going to say here if it renders, and I'm running pm test. So now we are going to get bunch of problems. So first problem is, let's see where to catch actually this error, and that's that we cannot read properties of null, and that leads us probably to the next navigation. Let's see what's the actual problem. So it's probably error handling behavior. Here it is. So we have a problem with our search params, and that's use search params from Next.js. So first thing we need to do is to mock this use search params. Let's create now in our test file our jest mock. So that one is going to be for the next/navigation. That's the thing we need to mock, and we are going to create a function, and here we need to create our actual mock. Thing that we need to mock is right here, and it's the use search params, so that is causing the problem. And here we are going to return an object where we are going to put our own use search params. So here we are just going to return an empty function that is basically not returning anything. So here we are going to create a get, and there it's just going to be a function that returns an empty object. And let's try now running our pm test. Now we are going to encounter on a different problem, but we probably don't have anymore the use search params problem. So we see now that our problem is trpc context. So we are missing here our trpc provider, and we need to add it. So here we are going to wrap our users page in our trpc provider. Here it is. So I'm calling it from our components, and I'm putting it here. So now our page knows what kind of context it's using. This is maybe looking a little bit complex, but these things like this mock is something that you are probably going to copy paste from your other Next.js project where you wrote tests. So don't be afraid of this. These things can be found online or in tutorials, or you can just take it from the GitHub repo of this Orcish Fullstack Admin. But these are the things that you just copy and paste inside of your tests. Let's run now our pm test, and let's hope that this time we're going to have 2 pass tests. And here it is. We have our 2 pages fully tested. So they are rendering, and on the first one we have our heading, and the second one is just rendering with all the mocks that we created. So next thing is to test our users table, and this one is going to be now easy when we passed that part when we have all the mocks and everything. So here we can just test what is happening with our table. And now we are doing the same thing. So I'm creating a new file. It's going to be called userstable.test.tsx. And here we are going to copy paste again this same test, not this one with the mocks, but this one. And we are going to test our users table. So that one is coming from our users table from here. And we are going to rename this part also, and we are going to test it. So here you can see that we are missing the props, so we need to create our user mocks. I prepared those mocks already. I'm just going to copy paste them here. For now, we are going to use hard-coded mocks, but there are libraries that are creating mock users, mock anything that you like for you. So we are going to cover that one in one of next videos. But here we are using now our warrior and our wizard. So here we want to see if we are rendering our user table, and we are going to put these users as our users in the table. So our users are going to be our mock users, and let's see what props do we have. So we have is loading. We are going to put false, like it's already loaded. So here we are putting is loading, and we are going to say false. And then we have, let's see, what do we have next? So we have total pages, current pages, and total items. So here for our total pages, we are going to put 2. For our current page, we are going to put 1. And for our, total items, we are going to put 10. And we are going to remove this one. We don't need to check any headings. We just want to see if this users table is rendering. So let's try it out now. pm test, and this one should be successful. Nice. So we are rendering our table with our mock data, and this is a perfect start to start writing some real tests for our users table. So let's see what can we actually test here. So this is our component here, the users table. So first thing that we can check is if this title is users, and that one should contain users. Then next thing is our headings. We can test if we have ID, email, username, and date columns. And after that, we can test, do we have actually our roles displayed? And then we can test our pagination. So how many numbers do we have if we have the total items 2 inside here? And we can check also if we have next and previous button. And the final thing, probably we can check if we are getting our loading, if our boolean is true for loading. So there are a bunch of things to test, and let's start by the first one, and that's the most simple, if we have our users heading. So that one is going to be easy. It's completely the same like in this test here, and not that one but this. So we are going to copy this part from our first test. I'm going to close all other files, and here we are going to say if it renders right heading, and here we are just going to repeat our render from here. So we always need to render our component before we are testing it, and here we can check. So I think that in our so here we are using shadcn, and the card title is I think, yes, it's age 3. So here we are saying that we have our heading level 3 and it's expected to be there. So let's try it out. We are doing pm test, and that one should be good. Oh, it's failing. Okay, so it needs to test cannot be nested. Test, oh, I did the wrong thing here. It should be here. Okay, and now we can run our test, and that one should be successful. Great. So we have our heading, and now we need to check if inside of that heading we have the keyword users, and that's really easy. So here we are just going to say that expect heading to have text content, and inside we are going to say users, just like that, nothing else. So we are expecting here to have users text inside of our heading. We are testing that one, and that one should be good. Yes, we have users, so our test is successful. Let's see the next thing. So next thing we need to see is, do we have actually these headings for our columns? That one should be also easy. So I'm going to copy paste again this entire it. So we are always using the render users table. That's the basic stuff that we need to do before our test. And now we can just say like this. So we are going to expect that we have in our screen get by text like this, and inside we are going to say ID. So that's the first one. I'm going to remove this header and this one also, and then we have 3 more, and we have email, username, and date. Email, username, and date. And we can say here renders table headings. Did we change this one? Yes, the right heading. So let's test this one out. We are running our test, pm test, and we have 5 tests that are successful. So let's just test it out a little bit. So here, if I change, for example, let's change it in test. So here, if I say emails like this and test it out, that test is going to fail. So here we can see that we don't have that email like this. We have email. So our tests are definitely working. Awesome. 5 tests passed, and next thing, so we need to test if we have here actually our warrior and our wizard from our mock data here. That one is actually easy because we have already here our mocked users, and it's a little bit different if these users are dynamic, but here we can just say same thing like for our table headings. So we are going to create a test and we are going to say renders user rows, and we are just going to check if we have these 2 emails. So that's warrior@orcdev.com, and I'm going to put that here, and here we are going to say wizard@orcdev.com. So we have our current page is 1, so it should be displayed. Let's test it out. We are testing it and it's passed. So we are definitely seeing on our users table these 2 users, and that's warrior and wizard. So we are rendering our rows, and also this test is successful. Next thing we need to test is our pagination. So here, if we have 3 pages, we are on the second page, we are going to get previous button and the next button. And we are also going to get 3 links, 1, 2, and 3. So let's try to mock that kind of situation. So I'm going to create a new test, and that one can be renders pagination correctly. And we are going to say total pages of 3, and current page we can say 2, and total items, let's just put 2 also. So we have 3 pages and we are on the second one. So that's this situation right here, except we have 3 pages. So we should have 1, 2, 3, and we should have previous and next button. So let's catch those elements. So first thing that we need to expect here is, let's delete this one. So we need to get by role, and we are going to get our link, and we are going to catch it with the name of 1. So that's our first link, and that's this one, and we are going to catch all 3. So we need 2 and 3, and let's see if this one is working. So we are going to run again pm test, and this one should work. Yes, nice, it's working. So we are catching our 3, so 1, 2, 3 buttons, and now we need to catch our previous and our next button. So that one shouldn't be too hard. We are just going to do a little bit of regex, regular expressions. So I'm going to say here the same thing, expect screen get by role link, and name is going to be like this. So I'm catching any expression that has previous. I think it's previous. Let me see. Yes, so it's previous. And this one should catch our previous link. And let's test that one out. So yes, it's working. Nice. And now we are doing the same thing for next. So we are going to do it here below. So this is the exact way how it's displayed in the component. So we have previous, then 1, 2, 3, and then next. Is it next? Let's see. When we go on 1, yes, it's next. So this one should complete our test. Let's try it out. And Awesome, it's working. So we tested also our pagination and it's working completely fine. And the last test that we are going to write for this component is for loading. So I'm going to copy again this test from here and I'm going to say renders loading. And here we're going to put is loading true. And that one is basically just determining if it's loading or not. And if you see here, when we load, we have our 5 rows like this. And we have also our 6th row, and that's this one, the heading. So we are just going to check, and that's the easiest way to check if it's loading or not, if we have 6 rows here when we have our loading set to true. Easy. So let's do that one. Here I'm going to delete this part, and here I'm going to call get all by role like this, and we're going to call for a row, and we're going to get length from that one. So here we are going to say that it needs to be 6, and 6 again, that's here 5 plus 1, so we should have 6 rows, and that one should be it. And let's try our final PM test to see if it's working, and all of our tests are passing. I hope you have enjoyed this video and that you're not going to be afraid of tests ever. And for more videos like this, make sure to join the Horde and subscribe to the OrcDev channel.